About 3,000 years ago, the Arkoa race was created by the ancient goddess Rukmar, although they are not quite natives of Iraq. After the battle between herself and Anzu against Sif, Rukmar fled along with her Kaliri followers to the tallest mountain of Gorgrond. There, she transformed some of her Kaliri into the first Arkoa in honor of the sacrifice of her counterpart Anzu, who had contained Sif's dying curse during their battle. The first Arkoa society, residing in Gorgrond, was guided from afar by Rukmar, and they very quickly mastered their matron's light magic. However, they also came to revere Anzu much in the same way as Rukmar, and, as such, quickly discovered arcane magic as well. Eventually, with her last dying efforts, Rukmar led the Arkoa back to the mythical Iraq, where she then passed away, burning like a second sun in the sky while doing so. The Arkoa then vowed to create a grand civilization in Iraq in honor of their goddess, and they started calling themselves the Apexis. Unlike most societies, the Apexis embraced the light and the void equally, believing they were both natural parts of life. The wielders of the light eventually formed into the Anhar order, specialized in both holy and fire magic. The wielders of arcane magic studied the Sefek Hollow, the dark pool where Sif died, and unraveled the mysteries of shadow magic, eventually combining the arcane and the shadow into a unique form. These would eventually become the Skalax order. For most of their history, the Anhar and Skalax orders equally shared power and influence within Apexis society. The Apexis had a fascination with the other races of Draenor, namely the Breakers, the Primals, and their respective descendants. Although never interfering directly, they observed the conflicts between the two groups and knew of their origins thanks to the teachings imparted to them by Rukmar. The Arkoa were both fascinated and pitied the other races of Draenor, yet nonetheless, for the first 1,000 years of their history, the Apexis did not expand in a major way outside of their native Iraq. "2,000 years ago, as the Apexis solidified their society and explored Draenor, one of the oldest and most powerful of the Primals of Draenor, the Treant known as Narlgar, saw the Arkoa as a threat to all other creatures of the world, despite the fact that they had no intention of expanding beyond Iraq. Eventually uniting many of the Primals of Draenor and assuming a sort of leadership role, Narlgar assembled an enormous army in Talador and attempted to resurrect a Spore Mound, one of the ancient primordial creatures of Draenor, which he named Tala. The Arkoa discovered the true purpose of this gathering too late, and launched a massive assault on the Primals, which failed and resulted in almost half of their armies falling. Desperate to stop the now awakened Tala, the Anhar order quickly began assembling a super weapon known as the Breath of Rukmar, while several Skalaxi assassinated Narlgar at the cost of their lives, delaying the Primals long enough for the weapon to be finished. The Breath of Rukmar then instantly destroyed Tala and much of the plant army, ensuring the supremacy of the Apexis and permanently crippling the Primals of Draenor. Following the destruction of Tala, the Apexis society reached its height, truly becoming the most powerful force on Draenor. The Anhar and Skalax orders created what would be known as the Apexis crystals, repositories of knowledge and power similar to scrolls or tomes. The population and territory of the Apexis greatly expanded, and religion came to define the Apexis society, guided by the Anhar priesthood. The arrogance of the Arkoa grew as a result of their victory, as they devised artificial constructs to do their manual labor for them around this time. Perhaps most notably, at least for the Arkoa, a small group of Anhar priests even discovered and resurrected the corpse of Rukmar, albeit with greatly reduced power and intelligence. It is worth noting that, unlike their descendants the High Arkoa, the Apexis never used the Sefek Hollow to punish dissenters. Instead, the Apexis revered the site of Anzu's sacrifice and carefully studied the place, using it to further their own knowledge of shadow magic. Over time, however, a brutal power struggle developed within Apexis society between the Anhar and Skalax orders. The Anhar, who had greatly gained in prestige thanks to their battle with the Primals and their role as priests, began hoarding Apexis crystals in an attempt to hoard the knowledge of their civilization and thus control it. Eventually, their rival Skalax order, led by one Sorcerer-Lord Salvas, discovered this and demanded the release of the crystals to be used by all Arkoa. The Anhar leader, Priest Lord Velfreak, responded by declaring the Anhar as sole rulers of the Apexis and as living representatives of Rukmar herself. A brutal civil war broke out as a result and, at the end, the Anhar order prepared to use the breath of Rukmar itself against the Skalax. Sorcerer-Lord Salvas, realizing this, wove a spell which destabilized the breath of Rukmar. Unfortunately, this had the unintended side effect of detonating the weapon, instantly destroying the land of Arak, the Apexis civilization, and most of the Arkoa. Originally, Arak was so named for the spire which dominated the zone, but now, in time, the resulting wasteland would become known as the Spires of Arak. After the destruction of their civilization, many Apexis relics were scattered across Draenor due to the various Arkoa refugees. A few of the scattered, mostly non-unified survivors of the Skalax order began seeking out Apexis crystals for fairly various reasons, some more self-serving than others. One such group, led by one named Yonzi, learned of a large cache buried in an ancient Apexis settlement in Talador. The ruins, however, were inhabited by Ogron, who ruled over a large population of ogres. Yonzi taught several of the ogres, led by one named Gog, the secrets of arcane magic and helped them rebel against their overlords. Eventually, a nearly universal revolt took place across Draenor of the ogres against the Ogron, and Gog claimed the ruined Apexis city as the capital of his new empire. He also refused to give the Apexis crystals to the Arkoa who helped him, and when they then tried to steal them, he slaughtered them. Gog's capital would become known as Goria, seat of the Gorian Empire, and eventually it would be the location of Shatrath City.